Diesel with Odie sitting in. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Those of you on the live stream can join in the live stream right now and can check it out on the YouTube stream. Great to have you guys with us. Honoring our military. Am I with a new shirt from Michigan? Rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. So again, we've got and Odie, I'm gonna issue a challenge to you here, my man.
Yep, go for it.
If you can grab me the SEC on CBS theme for this segment, you would be the man. You're still kind of the man, okay? But if you can't locate that is totally okay, totally all right. But in any case, we are going to proceed here, and I'm going to tell you what we've got, all right? Because every year, my friends, this is one of my favorite things. And I know, look, you got to limit the lists you do on the air, right? Like, list radio isn't necessarily the most interesting radio, even though, it's one of my favorite things to do. Like, if you want to capture my attention, right, you do something like prettiest campuses in college. Prettiest college campuses in America. Best cities to live in America. You give me a list, you put it together, brother, I am reading that list. So, in any case, once a year, I rank the top 20 overall programs in college football. Now, what's the criteria? It's basically, in my opinion, the prestige level of the different college football programs in the country. My top 20 overall programs. Now, to get to where you are in total prestige, right, certainly incorporates history. Certainly it incorporates what you've done lately. But it's not really a list that's projecting what you're going to do this year. You know, it's the overall level of prestige with your history and your recent form and what you've done lately, all kind of factored into this. And so once a year, we do this. And you can trace it back and you can get angry at me and you can say this and you can say that. But the reality is, my friends, we do this once a year. We do this every single year on a day in August in advance of the college football season 2023. And so without further ado, I'm going to reveal 20 through 11 right now. 1 through 10 are coming up in the 5:20 p.m. segments. Okay, 1 through 20 coming up at 5:20 p.m. Okay, so let me first hit you with the teams that just missed my top 20 ranking. Okay, teams that just missed my top 20 ranking. They are as follows. These programs did not make the cut, and some of them, frankly, shocked me that they didn't make the cut, given some of what they've done in the past. Oklahoma State, TCU, Michigan State, Iowa, Stanford, UCLA, Washington, Ole Miss, and perhaps my most striking admission, or I should say my most striking exclusion, Nebraska did not make my top 20 overall programs list. Odie, they've sucked for too long. You know what I mean? Like, they've sucked for too long. I don't know how long you can be bad before the overall evaluation of the program drops. I think Nebraska is there. This is kind of a theme here, right? Those are the programs that did not make the cut for my top 20 this year. They were next in line. They were 21 through 30 probably, but they do not make my top 20. So let us begin with number 20. The 20th best program, according to yours truly, is none other than the Wisconsin Badgers. They are program number 4 for me out of the Big Ten. Luke Fickell is their new head coach. You guys might remember that when we gave you the chance to heist a tradition in college football, tradition, Wisconsin's jump around was the one that I wanted. That was the one that I wanted to swipe. I think they've got great tradition. I think they've got a brand of football, right? They're going to physically beat you up, ground and pound, etc. They've got an entire state cheering for them. You don't realize that, folks, until you get close, as I did, to driving through Ohio, driving through Michigan. Michigan is split right down the middle. I mean, they've got it. They've got the setup, man. Michigan's got an in-state rival, Michigan State. Michigan's got the out-of-state rival, Ohio State. And if you are in the state of Michigan, you are rooting for Michigan or Michigan State. I got the sense being there, it was probably 80% Michigan, 20% State, right? Wisconsin has the entire state. Who's Wisconsin's rival? Who's Wisconsin's rival in their own state? Anyone? Bueller Fry? I don't know, man. Like, they've got the history, they've got the tradition, and they've got a heck of a coach in the present day. I've got Utah number 19. Kyle Whittingham. This is a tip of the cap to the present, to the past, and to the future. They're now winning at Utah Power 5 conference championships. You do that, along with your pretty solid history, you make it into my top 20. Number 18 overall program in college football this year for me, the Auburn Tigers. The Auburn Tigers, number 18. Hugh Freeze and company, national championship tradition. You do get the sense that they've fallen a bit, right? But there still is very, very much the Auburn or Alabama thing in Alabama, to the point where, folks, and I've heard this from a number of people now, I'm not saying this is legal. In fact, I'm sure it probably isn't. But if you get pulled over on the highway in Alabama, whether you get a ticket or do not get a ticket depends largely on what side of that rivalry you support, and if you guess the right rivalry of the cop. Let me ask you this. If you got pulled over, if the rules were like that in the state of South Carolina, Odie, do you think, like a Clemson fan here in the upstate, if they got pulled over and the cop was a Gamecock and you could see like the flash of garnet under his uniform, right? If he had a little pin or a sticker on or something like that, if you could see that to some degree and you're a Clemson fan, would you claim to be a Gamecock fan to get out of a $200 ticket? Would you do that?
Honestly, yeah. But no. I mean, yes, no, actually I would. If it was to get out of a $200
ticket
and, points on your license, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think I'd possibly do it.
How about you guys? Because that gets you out of a ticket in the state of Alabama. Would you be a traitor against your own school momentarily if it got you out of a $200 ticket? What do you think? Number 17, I'm going the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning already getting an extension in Oregon. The feeling, the vibe there is very, 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 very positive. Do they have their future Kirby Smarts? They have their future conference. They have their money with Phil Knight. Oregon, number 17 for me, and on the rise. I've got the Tennessee Vols coming in at number 16. Now, Tennessee's a program that used to be, when I did these lists, in the top 10. Again, like Nebraska, they've stunk for a very, very, very long time. But the feeling is Josh Heupel, his system, air raid offense, is bringing that back. They're bringing sexy back in Knoxville, Tennessee. Drove through it last night. Let me tell you, it is hopping once again. I've got Tennessee number 16. Because of the history, I have Florida State number 15 on my best overall programs in college football. Now, you guys know, we pull a Dennis Green clip for you a lot of this show. If you want to crown them, then crown their ass. And I do not subscribe to what the AP poll and the college, the coaches poll have done, placing Florida State in front of Clemson. To be the man, you got to beat the man, right? I mean, isn't that what Ric Flair said? Was that a wrestling reference on this show? What has gotten into me? Man. But they haven't beaten the man. And they really, they really haven't been good for much of the last decade. Florida State won the 2013 national championship. I was watching that game. Okay, of course I was watching that game. As a matter of fact, I was in a relationship with a girl who was an Auburn fan at the time, who was crushed that they lost that game at the last second. But Florida State has not done squat since. And I know that you guys like to buy the hype hook, line, and sinker. I'm not saying Florida State can't be back, but until they are, let's not crown their asses just yet. They were 5-3 last year in a very mediocre conference. They barely beat 6-7 Florida. They barely beat 6-7 Oklahoma. The excuse for Florida was it's a rivalry game. What's the excuse for barely beating pathetic Oklahoma last year? What's the excuse for that one? Oh, yeah, it's a bowl game. It doesn't really matter. Okay. 14 for me, I've got Texas A&M. The history, the 12th man, unlimited coffers, unlimited finances at Texas A&M, College Station, live, eat, breathe, drink. That team, that program, that gets you up to number 14. The U, Miami, I have as number 13. I had a Utah fan call the show on CBS Sports Radio and say, we are you. Like, I'm stealing our own tradition back. What does Miami have to do with a U? Give it back, you thieving bastards. A Utah fan said that. Well, Miami doesn't have the present, but they most certainly have the past. And they authored one of the most dominant eras in all of college football. And it's Mario Cristobal's job to bring that back. Does Miami end year 2 of the Cristobal era in the top 25? We will soon see. At number 12, I'm going to go the Penn State Nittany Lions, who are below the team I have at 11 for a very specific reason. Penn State, they haven't really achieved anything of note under James Franklin, right? Joe Paterno, illustrious history, did not end well. You don't need me to go into all of that. When your tenure ends with them removing a statue of you, that didn't end well. And Penn State is an easy number 3 in the Big Ten, but they're also a clear number 3 in the Big Ten. There is a gap that exists between Penn State and the top 2 teams on the list that appear in the top 10 of my rankings. Number 11 for me, folks, and this is very, very painful because it is the first time that I have ever done this list where my alma mater did not make the top 10. The Florida Gators, in my opinion, are no longer a top 10 program in college football. I've got them at number 11. This happens when you have not 1, not 2, but 3 failed hires in a row. Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen. Now, Dan Mullen got fired at Florida with a better winning percentage than James Franklin has currently at Penn State. Well, different expectation levels, I guess. That's why Florida's ahead of Penn State. Florida also has 3 national championships in the last 28 years. But in a what have you done for me lately society, brother, you have got to give me something. Billy Napier has got to work. He's got to click. He sounds like a great CEO, a great program president, can connect with families, can connect with kids. But does he have the football acumen? Does he have the football smarts? We don't know the answer to that yet. We will soon find out. So anyway, there's my 11 through 20 programs in college football. 1 through 10 will be revealed at 5:20 p.m. this afternoon. Who, my friends, is number 1? Who is number 1 on the list? All right, let's check and see what you guys are saying on the carpro.com text line. Brandon Burnett, how about them Burns Rebels? Man, it's great to have high school football back, isn't it? It's great. And of course, you can hear Burns right here on the Fan Upstate. Texter says, there's what's good I've been looking for. We missed you, Mark, but had a great week. Glad to have you back. And Odie, let's ride. Texter says, YouTube stream, ? It's up. Mm-hmm. Texter says, surprising Carolina is up there. I saw a surprising fact also. Carolina is like top 6 in the SEC the last some odd years in ranked wins. Texter says, question for Odie. Your mom and dad, were they Garfield fans?
Yes, they certainly were. Loved it. And love lasagna.
All right. We see you guys texting in early and often. We appreciate you. We missed you. We talk high school football week 0. I mean, I love it, but I mean, can we just get rid of this week 0 nonsense? Cole Bryson, host of the Saturday Scramble, joins us next here on Offsides. Odie sitting in. We are the Fan Upstate. Fantastic to have you guys with us here on a Monday edition of the show. Missed you guys. Great to be back. Also, great to have him back is the host of the Saturday Scramble. Now, he took a one-year hiatus to spend some time covering his favorite team and working for his favorite team in Dallas, and we're thrilled to have him back. Cole Bryson back in the saddle as host of the Saturday Scramble, anchoring our high school football coverage. Rob Brown, the voice of the Burns Rebels. Cole Bryson, host of the Saturday Scramble. And Cole Bryson joins us right now on the show. Cole, rumor has it in the state of Alabama, guessing the right side of the officer's fandom can get you out of a speeding ticket. Would you, Cole, switch sides of the rivalry and actually claim your rival, which I believe is South Carolina, if it got you out of a $200 ticket? Would you do that, Cole?
Mark, I'd reach for the checkbook, baby. Reach for it.
Yeah, there's
no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
No way.
Okay. Just making sure, pal. Just making sure. I value the heck out of that, the morality of that. I really do. Because, Cole, we're seeing a lot of this with like the Live Tour today. What can be bought, what cannot be bought. And you're saying like your fandom in no way, shape, or form can be bought. And I think you really got to respect that. So we had week 0, Cole. Can you just help me understand this week 0 phenomenon a little bit better, Cole? Because I think it's kind of dumb. If we're playing, let's just call it week 1, but college football does this, and it's like you're dipping your toe in the water with games, but it's not really a week. And I don't know, man. To me, anything worth doing is worth doing well. What's up with this week 0 fad?
No, I agree. It is strange. I think when they began doing it, Mark, there were more teams that weren't playing. So it was kind of like a intro week, if you will. Everybody wasn't playing, so they called it week 0, and the next week was week 1. However, I think like 90, maybe 92% of teams across the state played on Friday night. So it is week 1. However, I do like finishing week 0 and then preparing for week 1. It does seem like you get a little double dose there. So I do like that aspect of it.
So with that, all of that said, Cole, what surprised you the most about week 1? We had some big matchups. I like the fact, Cole, that, unlike college football, right? Like we said a year ago that, man, if Oregon didn't open with Georgia, if Oregon opened with Georgia State and not Georgia, they might be in the college football playoff. But they opened with Georgia. The way our memories work is we remember the first and the last thing of everything. And so we just remember Oregon getting stomped, and we never really took them seriously all year long. But in high school football, you're not really penalized for doing this. So what jumped out to you week 0?
Mark, it would probably be the best region in the state right here in the upstate in 5A, the region that contains Burns, Spartanburg, Bowling Springs, Dorman, and Gaffney. My biggest surprise would probably be 4 of those 5 teams losing in week 0. Burns was the only team that won, and it was not a good week for other schools that played out-of-state schools. Several schools played schools from Georgia. Several schools played schools from North Carolina. It didn't end so well for the state of South Carolina, other than Burns, who was the lone representative who went up on Saturday night and took care of Huff in a very impressive win for the Burns Rebels. But I think it would be, Mark, the 4 of those 5 teams lost in week 0. Again, you've got to make sure you don't overreact to week 0 and start calling for jobs after week 0. I think that's, a common misunderstanding with fans, which I love because fans are what makes it fun. However, that region is the best region in the state, the Burns, Spartanburg, Dorman, Bowling Springs, and Gaffney. And to see 4 of those 5 lose, every one of them on Friday night lost, that was surprising.
People have been asking the question, Cole, can Greenville get over the hump this year? They have really improved. Greg Porter and the job that he's done there has been amazing, right? But that is, on all levels, the hardest thing to do, right? Can Andy Reid get over the hump and finally win a Super Bowl? Can Kirby Smart get over the hump and finally make it to and win a national championship game? And then you see them do it and the dam breaks, and then they keep doing it over and over and over again. But that final step, that final push is often the most difficult to attain. What does Greenville have to do to take that next step this year?
Mark, I know this sounds really cliche, but I'll say this because they do have the team to do it, but they just got to stay healthy. And I know that sounds very cliche and very simple, but man, Mazio Bennett, and they've got guys on the offensive line like Julius Tate, number 51. They have experience. Greenville last year showed a lot of inexperience at times during games, and you talked about them getting over the hump. They have been very close. They had a quarterback just a couple of years ago that was one of the best quarterbacks in the state. And you would think when you have an elite quarterback, that's the year you're going to get over the hump. But in reality, sometimes it's when a team is mature and they've played together for a while, and that culture is in place because of Greg Porter and his coaching staff, who have done an incredible job creating a winning culture at Greenville. Mark, I like them to, if they stay healthy, I like them to make a deep run. And you're right, getting over that hump is hard. But Greg Porter, the head coach at Greenville, if there's any coach that can get Greenville, who, by the way, has not been historically known for winning football games on Friday night, if anybody can do it, Greg Porter is the man for the job.
I understand, Cole, what you said. Look, let's not freak out about a week 0 game, but are all of these losses equal? That some of the best brands in the upstate suffered. What would you say is the most concerning week 0 loss that took place?
Oh, it's definitely Dorman. And on the other side of that coin, we were just talking about Greenville, Mark. Greenville beat Dorman 35-21. I'm the most concerned with Dorman. I'm not so much concerned with Bowling Springs, who looked tremendous on Friday night against T.L. Hanna, by the way, in Matt Reel's second season. I'm not so much concerned about Gaffney, whose offense looked really good. And I'm not really concerned about Spartanburg, whose defense was phenomenal against South Point. To me, it's the Dorman Cavaliers' first-year head coach, Jake Morris. They had a guy in Coach Dustin Curtis come in last year for 1 year. He went back toward the Columbia area to coach. Jake Morris, I'll say, has his hands full. And listen, Dorman is one of the biggest schools in the state. They've been one of the biggest schools in the state for a long time, Mark. And the talent that walks those hallways in every sport gives Dorman an advantage in every sport they play. The basketball team's won, like 5 out of the last 7 state championships. They're just uber talented in every sport. So there's no excuse for Dorman not to be talented because they have the students to pull from. It's not like it's a small, 2A school. So my biggest concern would definitely be Dorman. I do think Jake Morris, who's been a coach, an assistant coach at Dorman for a long time, he graduated from there, played at North Greenville. I think he eventually will get this train back on the tracks. But with a new year, with a first-year head coach in Jake Morris and already a group of kids who are very inexperienced, 9 of the 11 starters on Dorman's defense who started Friday night, 9 of those kids had never played a snap before on defense, they had never started this. So there's a lot of kids who have deer in the headlight looks right now for Dorman. A lot of growing up to be had, if you will, kind of like Burns was in some areas last year, not to the full extent, but Dorman has a lot of growing up to do. Jake Morris has to kind of rebuild a broken, maybe not broken, but an impaired culture at Dorman High School with the football program.
Cole Bryson, host of the Saturday Scramble, heard right here on the Fan Upstate every Saturday morning, joins us here on Offsides, the Fan Upstate. Cole will be joining us on Monday afternoons and on Friday afternoons to set the table for the high school football weekend that will be, and recap the high school football weekend as well. Cole, this was a tradition that we've done for quite some time, and we have we've talked about the top 10 teams in the area. I'm going to turn the floor over to you and allow you to explain your first top 10 of the year. Then next week when we do this, we're going to update that with any changes that take place. So who you got in your first top 10, Cole?
Mark, I absolutely love doing these. I'm going to start at 10 this time and work my way up to 1. I did have a couple of changes, and I did have a team that just got left out, and that was Westside Rams' new head coach in Brian Lane, who was at Clover and Burns previously. But we'll start at 10. I do have the Gaffney Indians at 10. They are in the upstate top 10. However, they're not up toward the top because of their loss. This is a what have you done for me lately list. A lot of it is. And when you lose, you're not going to get rewarded. So Gaffney falling obviously puts them or drops them a little bit in that poll. So I have Gaffney at 10. I have the Spartanburg Vikings at 9, which to me does seem kind of low because Spartanburg played a heck of a game. Their defense was phenomenal. They lost by 2 to a very good South Point team. So I have Spartanburg Vikings at 9. I have Southside Christian at 8. Despite their loss, they played a team out of state who was very, very good. We know the Sabres are good year in and year out. Their coach is phenomenal. They have a great culture in place. I like Southside Christian to maybe win out. They have a very talented roster. I have the Clinton Red Devils at 7. Clinton put up 50 on Friday night. They've been a force to reckon with in 3A for a while now. Also in 3A, I have the Chapman Panthers at 6. Chapman had a big win over Woodruff. They have a really big test on Friday against Burns through the Panthers. But I have Abbeville at 5. They are a powerhouse year in and year out. The TL Hanna Yellow Jackets, they're at 4. They beat Bowling Springs Friday, but it wasn't convincingly. They may continue to drop. Well, it'll be interesting to follow them the rest of the season and see where they end up in this poll. Daniel at 3, Big Bad Daniel. The 1, 2, and 3, Mark, it's tough. They're all close. They're so close. But I do have Daniel at 3 that are incredible once again this season. And then at 2, I have Greg Porter's Greenville Red Raiders after a huge win over Dorman. Greg Porter and the Greenville Red Raiders find themselves at number 2 in my upstate top 10. And then at number 1, the team that looked the best this past weekend, they didn't play on Friday. They played on Saturday. It's the Burns Rebels. They played Saturday night, took care of Huff, looked really, really good. It's kind of hard to find holes in that team. So quickly, I'll go Burns 1, Greenville 2, Daniel 3, Hannah 4, Abbeville 5, Chapman 6, Clinton 7, Southside Christian 8, Spartanburg 9, and Gaffney at 10.
Cole Bryson, buddy, it's great to have you back, man. You do a fantastic job. You do an absolutely fantastic job, and we're thrilled to have you back hosting the Saturday Scramble, and we'll have you with us throughout the season. Thanks so much, pal, as always.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be back.
All right, Cole Bryson, host of the Saturday Scramble. Up next on the show, who are the top 5? I'll explain. It's Offsides, the Fan Upstate.
From the Free Odyssey app.
This is Offsides with Mark Ryan.
Fun, open, honest sports talk.
With a feeling of satisfaction that you get right in here.
That's what it means to be an offsider. Are you bold enough for truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You can't.
What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Marc Ryan and Diesel with Odie sitting in, and we are the Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Here's how you guys can take part in the show. You can give us a ring at 844-326-3663. TheCarPro.com text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Michigan getting set to impose a 3-game suspension on Jim Harbaugh for buying a recruit a hamburger, which you are not allowed to do. How that came to light, how they busted him for that in an era where brown bags filled with cash are shoved under the table, where cars are purchased. You know, like, for example, how in the hell is it legal that, does anyone know the specific brand of ride that Spencer Rattler got? All I know is it looked really sweet and tricked out and all that stuff. I don't know the specific name of the ride, but like, you're telling me that is fine, okay? Like, he gets a 6-figure vehicle to ride around campus, but Jim Harbaugh buying a recruit a cheeseburger is not okay. This has been our problem with the entire situation with the NCAA for a long time, right? Like, if you were hosting a recruit, you could give them a bagel, but you couldn't give them a bagel with cream cheese. Like, make it make sense. One is not against the rules. One is against the rules. 3-game suspension for Jim Harbaugh for buying a recruit a cheeseburger. No problem at all with Spencer Rattler being handed a 6-figure vehicle. Again, folks, please make it make sense. I beg of you. I implore you to make it make sense. The other thing I want to get to here in this segment, and I'm curious where you guys are on this, because I was looking at, where the Braves are today. And the Braves, had a 6-5 road trip. We were discussing before I left for the week, the long Braves road trip that they had, finished 6-5. Not great, right? Not great, but anytime you go on the road for that length of time, come back with a winning record, you'll take it. Since then, they've had an 11-game homestand, and they won 9 of 11 games on that homestand. But I'll tell you, if I am a Braves fan right now, I am feeling a little bit queasy. And you know why I'm feeling a little bit queasy? Not just because I ate chili on spaghetti noodles last night, which I love, by the way. By the way, Odie, we got ourselves in a little bit of a bind yesterday. What's the longest, Odie, you've ever driven in a single car trip? This was the second longest car ride I ever had. 14 hours. No. Like pretty much nonstop. I mean, like in other words, you didn't stop for the night, right? You didn't stop for the night. So the longest you could possibly do, right? The longest possible is 24 hours because there's only 24 hours in a day. Well, between two of us, it spanned over a day and a half. No stopping. No stopping. We drove from Cairns in the Northern Territory up in Australia. Wait. What does this mean? Oh, yeah. No. Cairns in the Northern Territory. This is Ireland? No, in Queensland, in Australia. Oh, wow. Okay. Down to Sydney. A friend of mine, he was, we'll say he was on a promise, and it worked out cheaper for us to drive down. Wow. And I wanted to see the Sydney Opera House, so we said, let's do it. Yeah. So we drove down. He did what he was going down to do. And then we drove back up again. What was he going down to do? He was on a promise. We'll just say that there was a very, very attractive Australian lady was waiting for him. And she gave him a good day, mate. She said, "G'day, mate." And I had my buddies back, and we drove him down to Sydney. There you go. Yeah. I'm down with that, man. I'm down with that. So longest I've ever been, Odie, is 1,000 miles. Okay. In a single trip, which took me by myself about 16 hours. And the last 4 hours of that, every minute felt like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like you want nothing more than to be the hell out of that vehicle.
Yeah.
This time was riding with the wifey and, getting to ride with her and trading off. Like we had this thing yesterday. So we left in Oscoda, Michigan. And we left way later than we should have left. Okay. But we left in Oscoda, Michigan. And we had this thing where every state that we hit, we changed off.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair
So
enough.
I drove Michigan. She drove Ohio. Then I drove Kentucky. She drove Tennessee. And she honestly drove most of the way back from Tennessee over through North Carolina and South Carolina as well. So that's how we did. 6 states we were in a single day. And we stopped in the Natty, Cincinnati.
Mhm.
And I got to try, Odie, Skyline chili for the first time.
Okay.
Now, this is one of those cultural phenomenons where if you're not from Cincinnati, this might sound weird, this might sound gross. We freaking loved it. It is, they call it a 5-way, and you get spaghetti. Okay, this is family show, Odie.
Yeah.
Eyes up here.
No, it went
Eyes
there.
up here.
It went there.
Okay, eyes up here.
Mhm.
Please don't go there, Odie. This is a family show. You get spaghetti, Odie,
Right.
chili on top of the spaghetti, cheese, loaded cheese on top of the, and then if it's a 5-way, it's onions and beans on there as well. Odie cannot stop laughing at the 5-way that is going on here.
42 years old with a
yeah.
4-year-old mind.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. I don't know what happened to you, Odie. But what would you eat that, Odie? Would you
Yes.
eat spaghetti with chili, onions, and cheese?
Yeah.
You would. It was delicious.
No, I mean, I'd hate to be getting into a car straight after it.
I did that. But
Yeah.
listen, my wife can tell you all about that.
I bet she can.
She hit very low blood oxygen
I'd
levels
say,
with what was going on in the
does she
vehicle.
need counseling now at this
Yeah, I think
stage?
she probably does.
Mhm.
Probably does. There was a symphony of scat that was going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
on the
I'd say
car
it
ride
was
home after that.
interesting conversation.
Yeah, to
Yep.
say the least. But we loved it. It was delicious. I can't believe, guys, I'm sitting here with you today. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio at 8 p.m. last night.
Yeah.
Okay. And here I am in the studio, the miracle of modern technology,
Mhm.
right? I saw a message from one of you guys that was like, Mark, I think you're in trouble if you're only in Cincinnati, Ohio now, and it's 8:00 p.m. But we did it. We made it. And we got back, well, I should say this morning, right? But we made it back through last night. We didn't stop. We didn't stay the night anywhere. I got about 5 or 6 hours sleep. Here we are. Never been better. But I want to mention this to you guys, and I got off on the queasy tangent, Odie, because of what we had to eat yesterday. But if I'm a Braves fan, guys, right now I'm feeling a wee bit queasy. And here's why. You guys know that you are seemingly far and away the best team, not just in the National League, but the best team in Major League Baseball. Far and away the best team in Major League Baseball. And certainly you're looking forward to the matchup with the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers are, let's see, 3.5 games behind you, right, in the NL. You respect what the Orioles are doing in the AL as well. The Orioles today are also 3.5 games behind you. But folks, with what the Braves are doing, dropping a winning percentage of .650, there's only 2 other teams in the majors who have a winning percentage of over .600, which is the mark of excellence in the major leagues. The very nature of baseball, the best teams win 60% of the time. The worst teams win 40% of the time, right? And the Braves are sitting there looking really good. But the reality is, folks, if I said to you, you get the Braves or you get the field to win the World Series, who do you got? And if you took the Braves, and I'll ask you that question right now, Braves or the field, who are you taking? If you take the Braves, you are theoretically making a bad bet. According to Fangraphs, right now, as we sit here today, there are only 3 teams that have double-digit odds to win the World Series. The Astros are at 10.1%. The Dodgers are at 14.9%, and the Braves are at 26.6%. Everybody knows, You, as a Braves fan, you guys are far and away the best team in Major League Baseball. And you still only have a 1 in 4 shot, roughly, of winning the World Series. So it's like, it's very likely that you're going to know you have the best team, and it's very likely that you are not going to win the World Series. And that's like, is it going to be viewed as a lost season? Because if you're telling me that it's World Series or bust for Atlanta, I'm going to take you back to these odds and tell you it's not, the odds are not in your favor that you're actually going to get that done. The chances are some team is going to get hot, as they always do, and they're going to have what it takes to beat you in a best-of-7 series. Those are the odds. And so if I am a Braves fan right now, I'm uncomfortable, because there is very much this feeling settling in of World Series or bust, of we better win the World Series or else. I don't know about you, Odie. I never reacted well to or else in my life.
No.
I never performed well.
No.
You know, when I say to myself, I better have a great show, the or else is implied there, right? I better have a great show, or else what? And then when I do that, I never have a great show, Odie.
Yeah, no.
If I just say, look, I'm going to have fun. We're going to have a good show. We're going to have fun. That's what we're going to do.
Yep.
Those are my best shows.
Do your best. That's all you can do.
That's it. But the Braves, for Braves fans, I feel like, do you guys, I mean, does this feel like it is World Series or bust to you if you are a Braves fan? Because that is very, very much what I am picking up. And that is not a very, very healthy spot to be. It just is not. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. Alex Rowe says, give me the three-way, baby. Alex Rowe wants the three-way. Odie, get your head out of the gutter. Alex Rowe says, no beans in the chili. It was fantastic. Oh, Skyline chili. You know, it took me about an hour on the road to convince Angela to sign on to this. Because Angela and I had eaten burgers and shakes earlier in the trip the same day. And it, like, you know, it's kind of like you got cement in your stomach for a while there.
Yeah, you got to stay fueled up, though. I mean,
right,
long journey to go.
But that was chili on spaghetti was not an easy sell to her after shakes and custards and burgers earlier in the morning. But she signed on to it. She signed on. By the way, Odie, I've been working so hard to lose weight, my brother. And I gained 5.2 pounds on this trip. I'm none too pleased. None too pleased. Got to make it happen some way, somehow. But going to get down. Guys, I'm going to get down to 189.8. Today, I weighed in my birthday suit at 200.2. Okay, 200.2. I got to get down to 189.8. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen before Thanksgiving. Going to try to do it during football season. Do you believe in me? Can I make this happen? All right, up next, a referendum on the Carolina Panthers leads us to an interesting question for you. That is on the flip side. Here on the show that gives you both sides. It's Offsides. Mark, Ron, and Diesel. Odie sitting in admirably, and we are the Fan Upstate. A texter is chiming in on that. So we shared with you total revenue in college athletics, right, from first to last, from the years 2017 to 2021, before the pandemic, through the pandemic, coming out the other side of the pandemic. Not unlike Skyline Chili, Odie, but still doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Still doing okay there. So we had, let's see here. A texter said, Mark, can you please let me know where the Huskers are? Nebraska is on this list. Nebraska is number 23 the last 5 years in total revenue at $629 million earned. Total athletic revenue. Ohio State is first, the only program over $1 billion. $1,025,965,761 earned in athletics, right? The Ohio State University. Diesel prefers that you call them an Ohio State University. I was smart enough not to say that to anyone when we were going through Ohio State. You're not just an Ohio State University. No, I didn't want to say that. Texter says, let's see here. Mark, can you hit me with Miami? What is Miami on this list? Let's see. The Miami Hurricanes on this list. Sheesh. They are number 31. Pretty well down there. They're in between Minnesota and Michigan State. $578 million total athletics revenue between 2017 and 2021. We mentioned that South Carolina is number 13 and Clemson is number 27, which is precisely why the Clemson Tigers are trying to get out of the conference, okay? Or have been trying to get out of the conference for quite some time. Now, I understand they'd like a new deal in the grant of rights. They're not able to get the new deal because previous leadership signed a deal, signed their life away until 2036. But the reason why Clemson fans, Clemson administration is concerned is because South Carolina is already beating you. Before this advantage that they have financially is about to double when Oklahoma and Texas join the SEC. The advantage that South Carolina's had over Clemson financially the last 5 years is $18 million. That number is going to become $34 million a year when Oklahoma and Texas join the SEC. How about that? How about that, my friends? All right, 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Texter says, Mark, from what I'm hearing, Greg Sankey is saying Clemson is going to get stood up on that date. Sounds like they are not following along with the Big Ten. Texter says, good to hear from you, Spur Daddy. It's been a while, man. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Texter says, this is Mongo with college football season coming up. I find myself a little morose. Gamecock football has always been a special time for myself and my dad. It's something we've always shared and have shared with my kids now. It doesn't look like Pop will make it to this season. And if he does not, and if he does, it won't be long after the start. Quite frankly, his mind is gone, so if he does make it, he won't know. I say this because I want people to appreciate things like this with their families, because as I am finding it, it will be gone one day. Love you guys. Go Gamecocks. Mongo, I am so sorry for what you are going through. And I'm so sorry that, this football season is going to be different for you, and at 5 o'clock today, in our top 5 at 5, I'm going to share with you the eulogy that I wrote for Angela's father that I shared 2 days ago at the funeral. Actually, Odie, 2 days ago, right about now. Right about now at the funeral. It started at 3 o'clock, and then afterwards, some folks got up to say their own eulogies for Jim, and I did that. I'll share that with you in the top 5 at 5 coming your way this afternoon. Mongo, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. JD says, we asked you guys the question. Look, would you switch sides in your rivalry temporarily if it got you out of a ticket? Rumor has it in the state of Alabama, you can get out of a ticket if you're on the same side of Alabama-Auburn that the officer that pulled you over is. Okay? You can get out of the ticket entirely. If you happen to know that the cop that got you was Clemson or South Carolina and you were the other side, would you switch sides temporarily to get out of a ticket? J.D. Wyatt says, man, I most certainly would. Michigan J. Todd says, I would just pay the $200 ticket. Screw Ohio State. Texter, yeah.
I was thinking about that. Fair enough with American football or college football or baseball or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think I'd switch sides just for then. But if it was back in Ireland or in England and it was an English rugby supporter, I don't think I would. And I'm just going to say that Ireland absolutely hammered England over the weekend. Just going to get that one in there because I was watching it and it was absolutely fantastic at 6:00 on a Saturday morning to watch Ireland win. But yeah, no, if it came to the thing where he was an English supporter, no. No, it's not the Irish and English thing.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Irish rugby is fantastic and English is just mediocre at the best of times.
So it's fair to say that England is the number one rival of Ireland?
It's a toss-up between England and New Zealand, the All Blacks from New Zealand and England. There's been a big rivalry between Ireland and the All Blacks for quite some time, especially in the Rugby World Cup. We generally get knocked out by the All Blacks, which is kind of a bone of contention. And one of the provinces, you have 4 provinces within the country, one of those, the Munster province, the Munster B team beat the All Black A team.
Wow.
And that was a big one. That'd be like if there was an American football team, like an All-Stars team, one of the smaller teams doing a better job than the All-Stars. So that was a very big deal.
What is a more physically demanding game, Odie? American football or rugby?
I'm going to get. No, I don't think I'll get a lot of hate because I think a lot of our listeners know a little bit about rugby.
You might be surprised at my answer here,
but I'm gonna say rugby is a little bit more physically demanding. You've no pads, you've no helmets. You're on for the entire game. When you step on the pitch on the first whistle of the first half, you step off at halftime. You step back on in the second half. You don't finish up until you're done.
There's no subs.
There's blood substitutes. So if somebody, that just goes to show you how rough of a game it is.
Substitutes.
Yeah. And they will work on somebody on the field as long as the ball isn't anywhere near them.
But like, what happens if there's an injury? Can you sub out?
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you have your subs, you've got 5 subs.
Okay.
You can make 5 throughout the entire game. You can't just decide that you want to put your kicker on or you just want to put on a tight head prop or a scrum half. These guys they're in the game and they get pretty disheartened when they're taken off unless they're injured. And normally the 15 guys that start are the 15 guys that finish.
Yeah, I'm going rugby is a more physically demanding game than American football, and it's because of the lack of pads.
Yeah.
It's because, we're doing all these things. We're changing the sport of football to prevent concussions.
Mhm.
It's like you guys don't give a damn about concussions.
They are, no. Okay, yeah, they don't. But they are changing the game. All of the players are now wearing computers. There's small little computers built into their jerseys. So they're actually monitoring them. There's a few tackles. You've probably heard of a spear tackle.
Sure.
That is now completely banned. If you do a spear tackle, your career in rugby is in question. If that takes place, any high tackles like above the shoulders, they're starting to look out for the guys. And as I've said before, it's a hooligans game played by gentlemen. So the guys are starting to look out for each other as well. Now the women's team, they're a different kettle of fish altogether because, I've played rugby for many years. I would not go up against a women's team, because they're crazy. They just they don't stop. They keep going until they get the ball. I was talking to Carlos about tag rugby. It's like flag football.
Sure.
So the guys will grab your tag and it's the same as a tackle. So you wear tags on your side.
Sure.
And the guys will grab a tag. That's your tackle. The girls grab the tag with their teeth because their arms are wrapped around you as they're pushing you onto the ground and
sounds very dangerous.
calling you a little girl.
That sounds very, very dangerous. Hey, I will say this, Odie, and I don't like when somebody does something to you when you guys are driving.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you guys does that person have a gender in your mind? Like when you call them a name, is it automatically a girl or automatically a guy? When, folks, you can't see the person inside. I realized something on this trip. I'm always calling somebody a 4-letter word, and it's towards a dude. Okay? Yet
Okay.
the reality is 9 out of 10 times I'm upset at something somebody did.
Mhm.
It's a Sheila behind the wheel. 9 out of 10 times. And it points, Odie, to what you just told me about the level of craziness on that rugby pitch. I'm telling you, why is that the case, folks? 9 out of 10 times I see something nutty on the road, and then you catch up to that person and you see them. 9 out of 10 times it's a Sheila.
I think it's because they have to deal with us, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just pushed them so far. I mean, my wife is 5'4". She's absolutely amazing. She's the most lovely woman that you'll ever meet in your life. But for some reason, when I happen to say something stupid, because I do it many times, I can feel her wrath, and she's a cowgirl, so she knows how to control big animals. And I look like a bit of an animal.
How does she control you?
Normally with her spurs, she'll come up behind me and zing me on the back of the leg. Or, yeah.
Well, it's better than a flick in the plums, right?
I think we need a break now. I'm getting.
We do. Texter says, my uncle pulled a lady over on suspicion of a DUI. She was belligerent. She told him, I'll have you know, I graduated from Clemson, magna cum laude, and my father is a professor at Clemson. He told me that. He said, okay, ma'am, I'll speak slower. So she dropped the, do you know who I am?
Oh, no. You don't know.
I'll have you know my father's a professor.
No, you don't.
Give a damn?
No, you don't do that.
What does he give a damn?
No, he doesn't.
What does he give a damn, really? All right, let's see here. Let's check and see what you guys are saying. Cole Bryson, my only request is please don't forget the Clinton High School Red Devils. Well, he didn't. They were in his top 10. Greenville was good last year, but Dorman was as well, a texter says. Let's see here. Mark, you said Carolina is beating Clemson. Don't you mean beat Clemson? Well, they're beating them now. In the present day, South Carolina is beating Clemson, and they're making more money than Clemson, and that's got to make Clemson fans very uneasy. Texter says, Mark, I'd pay the ticket because it's bad enough to think my hard-earned money may go to Clemson because my daughter may go there, but I am paying the ticket. I am not selling out my soul. Let's see here. Sink Navy, Notre Dame fan says, where is Notre Dame on the financials list? Where are they? That's a great point, Texter. A fantastic point. And I am scrolling through the list, and unless I'm missing something, it feels like Notre Dame's been omitted from this list for a reason that is not apparently not readily available or clear to me at the outset. Yeah, they're not on this list. Everyone else is there. I think Jeff Fuller, who put this list together, just may have left Notre Dame out. My bad about that, sir. My bad. All right. Coming up next on the show, I'm going to give you some data that you're not going to get anywhere else, and it points a rosy picture for the Gamecocks. And we'll do that next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel with Odie sitting in right here on the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. Odie sitting in. We are the Fan Upstate. Rolling on until 7 p.m. today. So this I thought is really interesting. All right, really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Always like to give you something that you can't get anywhere else. All right, so here we go. To make the college football playoff, where do you need to be recruiting-wise to get in, right? To make the college football playoff, where do you need to be to cut the mustard? Well, the reality is that South Carolina is a lot closer than people think to getting over the hump, especially with the playoff expanding in 2024. But before we look too far ahead, let's look at what the requirements are right now, recruiting-wise, to make the college football playoff. I've looked at every team that has gotten into the college football playoff, and there's only been 14 different ones in 9 years, okay? To get into the college football playoff, you have to essentially have an average recruiting ranking of top 10 over a 4-year period. Okay, so you've got to be right around number 10 or better over a 4-year period to make the 4-team college football playoff. You can have an individual class in those 4 years that is as low as number 20, right? But for the most part, if you're not the outlier Cincinnati, in order to make the college football playoff, you've got to average a top 10 class, and your worst class over a 4-year period can be about the 20th best class in America. But that is changing. And that is changing very, very, very significantly. And it's changing significantly because we are going to 12 teams. So how does the 12-team playoff change the requirement for making the college football playoff? So here is what I've done, my friends. I've looked at the teams that would have made the 12-team college football playoff last year, right? I've looked at those 12 teams. Then I looked at what they did in the 4 recruiting classes leading up to the postseason last year, which would have been 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And then I put a bow on this for you by really highlighting where you're going to have to be. Now, you might say, if you're a South Carolina fan, well, Mark, it's also overwhelming. I don't know if we're ever going to average a top 10 class over a 4-year period, so I guess we just can't ever expect to make the college football playoff. Sadly, folks, that was the case if you're a Gamecock fan. But that is very, very different right now. Very, very different. If you look at the 12 teams that would have been in it last year, Georgia, and these are in order, 1 through 12, Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, Clemson, Utah, Kansas State, USC, Penn State, and Washington. What did those schools, what was their 4-year recruiting average? All right. And then what I've done, because we now have so many teams getting in, you can afford to throw out your worst class over a 4-year period. Throw it out. Washington gets to throw out a class ranked number 95 in 2022. New coach, Kalen DeBoer. South Carolina would get to throw out a class ranked 80th in 2021. Beamer's first class would get to throw that out. USC gets to throw out the 70th ranked class in 2022. Lincoln Riley taking over. TCU gets to throw out the 54th ranked class in 2021. So you get a mulligan. Didn't you like those classes back in the day that you got to drop? You just got to drop the classes. Wasn't that nice? Right? Folks, all of which puts together the following picture. And if I'm a Gamecock fan, this is warming the cockles of my heart. It really is. Here are, over a 4-year period, dropping the lowest class from the 4 years. The average recruiting rankings, their top 3 classes of the last 4 years are the teams that would have made the college football playoff a year ago. Georgia's average class is number 2 over a 3-year period, no surprise. Michigan's average class is number 9. TCU made the 4-team college football playoff. And their average recruiting ranking, dropping their lowest class, was 33rd. Ohio State was number 4. Alabama, average recruiting ranking, number 2. Tennessee would have been in, dropping their lowest class of number 22 in 2021. Their 3 best classes over 4 years was number 14. Clemson, average recruiting ranking of their top 3 classes the last 4 years, number 6. Utah's number 33. Kansas State, by way of their 1-point win over TCU, their average was 57th. USC was 28th. Penn State's average recruiting ranking was 11th, and Washington, number 20. Their top 3 classes the last 4 years were number 20. But you might say, and you would be accurate for saying so, well, Mark, I think the requirement to make the 12-team playoff is going to be harder in the SEC than it is in the Big 12. You're 100% right. 2 best teams in the Big 12 last year. TCU had an average recruiting class ranking of 33rd, and Kansas State was 57th. I don't know that you can win the SEC or be good enough in the SEC to do that. So where do you have to be in your conference? Roughly speaking, my friends, you can make the 12-team playoff as an SEC member if you have a 3-year recruiting average of number 14. I think South Carolina can do that. You can make the playoff in the Big 10 if you have a 3-year recruiting average around number 11. The ACC, you just need to be top 20, and you need to be top 20 because the conference gets no respect. No one's going to believe you're very good if you're not popping with a top 20 class, right? Or a top 20 recruiting average. The Big 12, you don't need to recruit very well. And the Pac-12, you don't need to recruit very well. Now, the Pac-12, as you guys know, is now largely non-existent. But the reality is, I like to spin this locally. This news is fantastic for South Carolina. The college football playoff has gone from something you have no hope of making to something you very well could. Congratulations on that, Gamecock fans. All right, let's do this, Odie. Let's get to JD, who is up first here on the show. Hey, JD, you're offsides, buddy. Thanks for the call.
Hey, Mark. Good to hear your voice again, brother. Welcome back. Hope you had a great trip.
Thank you, sir.
I actually called Carlos about this the other day, so it was really funny you just brought this segment in. So Shannon Terry on 3 NIL evaluation or something, he was talking about how people aren't going to be able to hoard 5 stars any longer, and the NIL was leveling the playing field for everyone to make the college football playoffs and increasing their chances by 2 to 3 times. And my first point to that was exactly what you just said. The college football playoff just did that for you. They expanded your chances of making the playoff by 3 times by going from 4 to 12 teams. But he said that, it's creating parity in recruiting. And so I just wanted to run these stats by you that I've gotten real quick. I know you're big on the blue chip ratio. Yeah. So the blue chip ratio, though, it's 4 and 5 stars, but apparently Notre Dame and Ohio State and Michigan, I heard from a lot of their fans, they're not getting any 5 stars at the moment. As a matter of fact, some of those programs have 0 5 stars committed to them. So I think all the 5 stars and the 4 stars are just going to continue to go to the SEC and to the big brands like the Florida State and the Clemsons. And like I said, I even mentioned Ohio State and Michigan. But I had those fans chiming in and being like, hey, wait a minute. We don't even have any 5 stars committed right now. So I just thought it was crazy that this guy wanted to say that NIL was creating parity in college football when in actuality it's creating a much bigger gap. And I brought this to Carlos. Like I said, I figured you might would appreciate it a little more, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it a little bit.
Yeah, no, look, the haves and the have-nots, the gap is just going to widen, JD, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And, like Lane Kiffin has told us this. He said, if you want to know who has money, look at the recruiting rankings, and you're going to see some teams that you've never seen up there, right? Some teams that you've never seen ranked very highly suddenly are ranked very highly. And Where is this coming from? In his answer, it's all money, it's all recruiting. So we open the recruiting rankings. Who is doing very well that doesn't normally do very, very well right now in the recruiting rankings? Okay, so you look at that. You look at that, South Carolina is number 19. That's about where they've been. Nebraska's number 22. Ole Miss is number 24. But you've got like now UCF coming in at number 26. They haven't been there. Georgia Tech is number 27. Iowa's 29. You've got these teams that typically do not recruit at a very, very high level suddenly popping up there quite highly. And so, JD, I appreciate the point, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you'll have some of those teams popping up there, but it'll be the ones with money. But what I forgot to mention, and the one thing I thought was really interesting, he was talking about it creating parity, but I had actually just seen a stat a few days prior. There are currently, I think, 8 Big 12 teams right now who have 0 4-stars and 0 5-stars.
That's incredible.
So they have a 0% blue chip ratio, and we're talking about it's creating parity. But again, like I said, I just wanted to bring that one to you, Mark. Always great to hear from you. Have a great show. Love you, bro.
Hey, love you too, man. Thank you so much for ringing us up. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next. If you're on the line, please hold. We'll get to your call. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. Odie sitting in. We are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. Odie sitting in, and we are the Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 p.m. Great to be back with you. Had a really impactful trip. I will tell you more about that in a moment. But I, ladies and gentlemen, have now been to 34 different states. I've been to 34 different states. That's because I had been to 31, and I crossed off 3 new ones on this trip. Had never been to Kentucky, now I have been. Had never been to Indiana, now I have been. Have never been to Michigan, now I have been. All right? So the number of states, has anyone listening actually been to all 50 states? You know, I was talking to my gorgeous wife, Angela, about this, and we got to put together like her list. She's been around a lot as well, which is why I think we got married, honestly, right? Like I've traveled a lot. I've moved around a lot. I share some commonality with her. She's done the same thing. She's very worldly. Like, she's very adaptable. She can go to any number of different places and thrive because she's done that. And there's something about that is just so attractive to me. Now, her beautiful looks don't hurt, but you get the drift, right? So now I've been to 34 different states. The states I have not been to: Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, West Virginia. I can cross that one off pretty easily. That's like only 3 hours away. Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, Hawaii, and Rhode Island. Those are the only 16 states I haven't been to, my friends. And we're going to make it happen. The wife and I have set a goal to that right now. Has anyone been to more than me? Has anyone been to more than 34? Has anyone been to all 50? I'd love to know. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way momentarily. But before we get to that, Rich in Chicago has been hanging patiently on the line. Rich, I got some good news for you, buddy. We're going to be on CBS Sports Radio this Saturday from noon to 5. And wait for this, Rich. Very excited about this, my friend. Rich has been so supportive. He's a national listener that calls into the local show here. And likewise, we have you guys, local listeners, that text in and correspond when we're on the national show, which has been great. But Rich, check this out. I will also be on Sunday, 2 to 6. So, man, I'm probably going to be sick of myself by the end of the weekend, Rich. 12 to 5 on CBS Sports Radio on Saturday, 2 to 6 on Sunday. Brother, I cannot wait. Good to hear from you. What's good, man?
Hey, it's about popularity. You know, you're like an icon now, I guess, right? Or you wouldn't be
something like that.
Right?
Something like that. Yeah. Maybe in your mind only, Rich, but I appreciate it, buddy. What's good, man? What do you want to get to?
I want to talk about a variable that we talk about the 4- and 5-star ratings and the difficulty of the schedule. That's all variables. But one of the things that's overlooked, I think, in college, which is really emphasized in the NFL, is experience. You look at teams that have, a lot of experience, returning guys. They don't have rookie quarterbacks. They're always kind of factored into the projection in terms of how well they'll do. You don't really see that in college. So I want to take a look, and I think we talked about this before briefly, but the most updated version is really surprising, because if in fact you value experience, and I do, because let's just say you don't have all the 4 and 5 stars, but you have a group of kids that have been playing together for 3 and 4 years. And by definition, because I was very clear on this to make sure I understood it, experience is number of games played, not how old you are. So it's really kind of like the aggregate total of your squad and how many games they've played. And what surprised me, and this is going to be interesting for you guys in the ACC, 4 of the top 20 teams are listed as 133. The lowest is 17. Let me give you the top 4 in the ACC. This is nationally now. The number 2 most experienced team in the country is North Carolina. Number 3 is Duke. Number 6 is I'm sorry, I got it backwards. It's Duke. Florida State is number 2. Duke is number 6, and Miami is 17. So it's kind of like, okay, maybe you don't have the Power 4 and Power 5 guys to load up. But when you have these kind of teams, and the reason I think there's maybe a changing of the guard, what really shocked me, Florida won't, because the Gators, they're listed as 109 of 133 teams. So they're real young, real inexperienced. But what's remarkable to me, Alabama's 127 and Georgia's 95.
How about that?
Yeah,
about that?
Which is staggering when you consider, and this is kind of like, I factor in all these, me, I'm all over the stuff in terms of wagering. But if you take a look at any kind of measurement in totality, LSU is in the top 40, and they're loaded with returning starters. So is Texas A&M, but they got Jimbo Fisher, so you can forget about Texas A&M. I just think you're going to see some. They got this kid Beck from Jacksonville, who I know his father. He's the starter for Georgia. He's been named the starter. He's played maybe 30 plays. I think when you have an uncertainty at quarterback, and both Alabama and Georgia do, you may be surprised. I'm actually playing LSU to win the SEC.
Why is that?
Because of all the Orphanson mentioned data, returning starters, experience, which is significant, and Daniels at quarterback, who will be in his third year. I think when you take a look at their schedule now, the difficulty is they got to play Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Some of their games are on the road. But I think the old predictable, the Alabamas and Georgias, they're going to be great. Don't get me wrong. Clemson doesn't have a lot of experience either when you look at the ACC, but South Carolina is in the middle of the pack in experience. But I think if you don't weigh experience and playing together as a unit as a significant variable, you're missing the boat.
I agree with you, Rich. I agree with you. And I think that's very well said, my friend. Thank you so much for ringing us up. Yeah. And it's great to hear from you. And we look forward to hearing from you on Saturday. All right. We certainly look forward to that.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you, my friend.
Keep up the good work. You're picking up a lot of guys here in town.
Thank you so much, Rich in Chicago. It is time for us. And I don't mind taking a call, guys. How do you feel about that? Right at 5 o'clock, because I know a lot of you guys have let me know that you miss the first few of the top 5 at 5 because you're just getting off work at 5. So I don't mind giving you guys a few minutes to get ready to roll. And because here we go. All right. So I guarantee you, my guarantee is that this top 5 at 5 is on some level going to make you uncomfortable. Okay. Are you ready to get uncomfortable with me? The top 5 at 5 starts right now. Hit it. At number 5 today on the show. So rumor has it, my friends, that folks are able to get out of a ticket, all right, in the state of Alabama, if they curry favor with the side of the Iron Bowl rivalry that the police officer is on, okay? It's a known strategy in the state of Alabama. Figure out what side he's on, say nice things about his side of the rivalry, perhaps even pretend that you are a part of said rivalry, all right? And then go from there. So I ask you guys this question. Would you ever temporarily, okay, or fake like you are switching sides in the rivalry to save yourself a couple $100 and get out of a ticket? Would you ever do that? Would you switch sides of the rivalry and actually claim your rival if it got you out of a $200 ticket? I would absolutely do that. I think Odie said he would absolutely do that. Okay? Because no one's around to call me out on it. And it's about the greenbacks in my pocket. All right? I would absolutely do that. I wouldn't really view it like selling my soul or selling out. I'm just faking it until I make it. Right? So how would you guys answer that? Like if a cop that's a Clemson fan pulls you over and you're a Gamecock, would you fake like you're a Clemson fan to get out of a ticket? This has been known to work in the state of Alabama. What say you guys? What would you do? Let us know on the carpro.com text line, 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Next up. All right, so here we go, folks. I was out last week, as many of you guys know, and we left the house on last Sunday, okay? Had a CBS show last Saturday, left the house last Sunday. We spent 2 days in Nashville, had a great time in Nashville. I'll be posting some pictures of that up on social media. Then we left Nashville on Wednesday, drove up through Kentucky, had lunch in Louisville, Kentucky. Very good brewery called 1020 there. Then went up through Kentucky into Indiana, spent a few hours in the beautiful downtown of Indianapolis, Indiana, stayed the night in Fort Wayne. Drove then up the next day, another 5 hours to Oscoda, Michigan, which is where the funeral was held for my wife's father. All right. And look, we didn't have to say or write anything, but certain members of the family did. And I met my wife on November 20th, 2021. So not even 2 years ago. I met my father-in-law on December 12th, 2021. All right. So I got a little less than a year and a half with him before he passed away in April. And I knew that when I met him in December of 2021 that he was very sick with cancer, and we did not know how long he had left. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to share with you guys the same thing that I shared at the eulogy, at the funeral 2 days ago for Jim Mayville. All right, so if you guys can bear with me, I will bring this to you. Now, I did get choked up when I was reading this at the funeral. I don't expect that to happen right now, but I always believe in bringing you guys into my life, so I wanted to bring you guys into this right now. One of the most difficult things about losing a loved one is the transition to speaking about them in the past tense. Yet for one James Mayville, the memories are so vivid, so illuminating in our frontal lobes that Jim remains in the present tense, even though he is with us today in a different form. Some souls are so full of light and so vibrant that they just aren't meant to exist in a form that is anything less or wilted in any way. I got a little over a year with Jim, and I was frequently reminded of the way he was before cancer dimmed his light ever so slightly. And while I regret I never got to experience Jim on his best days, I sure did get glimpses here and there. With a wit as quick as the fastest draw outside of the OK Corral, Jim would hit you with deadpan humor that would drop you to your knees. One night, I arrived at the Mayvilles with a sinus infection, asked for an Aleve painkiller for the pain, and Jim quipped, "Aleve, you don't have to leave, you just got here." When we vacationed together for the first time, Angela and I shared a room with 2 beds in a cabin that was shared with the Mayville family. Jim looked at me, seeing that Angela and I would be staying in the same room, and said with a stern expression, "I better see both of those beds unmade in the morning." At the time, I didn't know whether to laugh or to cry until I saw the trademark Jim half smile. He earned the deep belly laugh with that one. But my favorite memory of James Mayville was something that didn't begin smoothly at all: asking his daughter's hand in marriage. You see, I'd only been dating Angela for about 4 months last Easter. But as you know, when you know, you know. And I knew that Angela was the one for me. So when I asked for Mr. and Mrs. Mayville's permission, as quick as a flash, and Odie, I'm telling you, man, this could not, like, at the time I'm thinking this could not have gone worse. I'm asking their permission. Jim says, "No, it's too soon." And he walks away. "No, it's too soon." Walks away. So I'm like, what do I do about this? Like, I can't obviously do anything. I can't propose. I can't do anything about this. Thankfully for me, his wife, Dee, my mother-in-law, had other ideas. "Jim, you haven't even listened to what he has to say." Dee cracked the door for me that day. And for that, I am forever grateful. I was able to see that Jim was only acting out of concern for his daughter, one of 3 apples of his eyes: his son Brian, his wife Dee, his daughter Angela. Now, in this eulogy, you've already heard me state that regarding Jim's daughter Angela, I knew she was the one early on. But what I never told Jim was the day that I met him and Dee, December 12th, 2021, I also knew that they'd be family. It just clicked, and the puzzle pieces fit right away. Jim's one request the day we met for the first time was for me never to hurt his daughter. And it's a request I will honor every day for the rest of my life. Jim, thank you for the blessing of the union between Angela and I, and for being a blessing to me. A blessing that gave me a new and loving family 1,000 miles away from home, one I didn't know at the time how much I truly needed. A blessing who made up one half of molding Angela into the person she is today, hands down the most incredible human being I've ever met. And while our time together was short, it was impactful. And I will use from your example, your leadership in guiding my family in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. And a little known fact to close: Jim was the reason Angela decided to date again after a 4-year pause to raise Jackson. He gave her the little push needed to put herself back out there when she had every reason to be anxious about doing so. Jim, as I shared with you in our final conversation, thank you for leading me to the greatest blessing of my life, our dearest Angela. And I will honor her with your loving spirit, grace, and tenderness in all I do. What a gift to be your son-in-law. We'll see you again soon. All my love, Mark. So that was my eulogy for Jim at his funeral 2 days ago. And I'm pleased to bring you guys into that. I'm sure it made you a little uncomfortable. Is this dude really sharing this on the air? Yeah, he is. But I believe in bringing you guys into my life, man. You know, that's my belief in what we do. Thank you for listening. Let us keep it rolling with number 3.
But I was going to say, first of all, thanks very much for bringing us that, because not enough men share enough things. And that's why we are the way we are. And here's a proposal for you. How about we roll 3, 2, and 1 into the next segment and we take a break?
Oh, I didn't even see the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a heck of an idea, Odie. Odie, one more thing.
Mhm.
You're right. And I think men suffer so badly from men suffer in silence.
Yes, we do.
With mental health problems,
Mhm.
because to admit mental health problems is to, quote, not be a man.
Yep.
Which actually, to be a man and to be open and vulnerable and to freely express your feelings is the greatest sign of manhood you could ever have. And it's such a shame that so many of us feel like we have to uphold this standard where you can't cry because crying is weakness and you can't express your feelings or can't do any of that. And it's a shame. And I hope that me sharing this with you guys, allows you to realize that it's okay to be vulnerable.
It is. It's okay to ask for help.
We'll continue with the top 5 at 5 right after this. Here are the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel with Odie sitting in, and we are the Fan Upstate. In fact, there is only one team the last 5 years, one program, one athletic program that has earned over $1 billion, and that would be The Ohio State University. All right. What about South Carolina and Clemson? The last 5 years, South Carolina's brought in $697 million in total athletics revenue. That's good enough for number 12. Clemson has brought in a total of $607 million. That's a total. That's a rank of 27th. And now you see, my friends, with your own eyes, why there is such urgency for many programs, Oregon and Washington, Arizona State and Colorado, Clemson, among others, to defect from their conference for more cash. Because South Carolina is already beating Clemson when they have an $18 million a year advantage. That $18 million a year advantage is about to balloon to 34 with the additions of Oklahoma and Texas. You can tack on another $16 million advantage per year with that list. So you're looking at South Carolina, and they have a total athletic earnings of $697 million over 5 years. That's $139 million a year, right? Well, Clemson's at 121. That number for South Carolina is about to go up to 155. 155 to 121. Clemson saying, well, shoot, they're already beating us. Now, they don't need a greater advantage than that to get by us. And yet that is exactly, my friends, what is happening. That's exactly and precisely what is happening. What do you guys think of this? Is there a school that you want to know where they rank? My Florida Gators come in at number 11 on the earning list. Next up. All right, my friends, at number 2 today, there is a very sticky Braves situation, if I might be honest with you here. And that is the fact that it feels like to me, and if you're a Braves fan, you tell me, right or wrong, hit or miss on this, okay? But it feels like to me that it's very much World Series title or bust for the Braves this year. You're far and away the best team in baseball on any list that I see. You're number 1 on every power ranking. You are number 1 in record in Major League Baseball. All right? And according to FanGraphs, you have the best odds to win the World Series. The Dodgers have a 14% chance to win. The Astros have a 10% chance to win. And the Atlanta Braves have a 26.6% chance to win. Well, what that 26.6% chance tells you is there's roughly a 3 and 4 chance that the Braves are not going to win the World Series. And if any of you took the Braves over the field, you would be making a bad bet. If I said to you right now, Braves are the field to win the World Series, who are you taking? And does this feel like a World Series or bust year for the Atlanta Braves? It certainly does feel that way, doesn't it? Not a great place to be, right? Not a great place to be. Because it sets you up with very, very little margin for error. But this is one of the best Braves teams we've seen of all time. So is that where we are? Does this feel like World Series or bust to you? And finally, at number 1 today, a once annual tradition here on Offsides. We unveil our top 20 overall programs in college football. We're going to get to 1 through 10 in the very next segment here on the show. 1 through 10 will be next. All right. However, we revealed 11 through 20 earlier in the show, and I will share those with you right now. First things first, those schools who just missed the cut of the top 20. Oklahoma State, TCU, Michigan State, Iowa, Nebraska, Stanford, UCLA, Washington, and Ole Miss. This list, folks, is essentially prestige, right, for college football programs. It factors in historical performance And also, what have you done for me lately? Giving me a general feeling for where the prestige level is of different programs in college football today. Counting down from 20 to 11. At 20, I have Wisconsin, 19, Utah, 18, Auburn, 17, Oregon, 16, Tennessee, 15, Florida State, 14, Texas A&M, 13, Miami, 12, Penn State, and for the first time ever, folks, don't ever say I'm not objective. The Florida Gators finished outside the top 10 at number 11. Can you believe I've got Florida, Miami, and Florida State, the three big Florida schools? Not a single one is still among my top 10 programs in college football today. Now, this isn't a forecast of what these teams are going to do this year, but it is a reflection of current prestige level. Florida's 11, Miami's 13, Florida State is 15 in terms of overall program ranking. What do you guys think of this? We will get to our top 10 programs in college football. Who is number one coming up next on the show? Hey, would you guys do us a huge solid and share our YouTube stream with everybody out there? Let everybody know that for the first couple of hours of the show every single day, we are on the YouTube stream live and with you. And I know you guys are working and getting off work, but it adds a different dynamic, right? Being a sports host myself, I learned so much by watching the dynamic of a show going on. Sorry that you have to see us. I know that ruins your day, right?
Speak for yourself. I'm absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I know your day was going well until you had to see our ugly mugs right on your screen. You're like, I feel like they subscribe, Odie, and then they immediately unsubscribe when they see what they have to look at.
I know. I'm keeping them there. I'm holding them on. This luscious locks and this lovely beard I have going. You know, it's really working for the crew.
And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. The CarPro.com text line is there for you at 71307 to start your text with the word fan, and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at The Fan Upstate at each one. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Marc Ryan, that is M-A-R-C Ryan, at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Coming up next, the top 10 overall programs in college football today as I see them. Whom is number one? My name is Marc Ryan. He's Odie. And it's Offsides right here on the Fan Upstate.
The Pats are about to pop. Hear live action of the Furman Paladins home opener versus Tennessee Tech on Thursday.